Lucy's Diner sat on Highway 95, a place where truckers and travelers stopped for coffee and breakfast. On this Saturday morning, 8 members of the Thunder Knights Motorcycle Club were eating in the back corner. Their leather vests and motorcycles outside were a familiar sight to Lucy, who'd served them for 15 years without any problems. Victor Kane was halfway through his pancakes when the diner door suddenly burst open with such force that the bell above it flew off and clattered to the floor. A small boy, maybe 8 years old, stumbled inside. His shirt was torn, one shoe was missing, his feet were bare and bleeding from running across gravel, and his face was covered in tears and dirt. "Please help!" he screamed, his voice cracking with desperation. "They're beating my mama!" The entire diner went silent. Forks stopped midair. Coffee cups froze at people's lips. Everyone stared at the crying child whose desperation filled the room. But while other customers sat frozen in shock, unsure what to do, the 8 bikers stood up immediately. Chairs scraped against the floor, boots hit the tile. Victor walked over and knelt down to the boy's level, making himself less intimidating. "Where is she, son?" His voice was calm, but deadly serious. The boy pointed with a shaking hand across the street to a run-down motel parking lot. "Room 14. My mama's boyfriend. He's hurting her real bad. Please, mister, please help her." Victor looked back at his brothers. 7 pairs of eyes met his, and they all nodded. No words were needed. They had taken an oath years ago when they formed this club. Protect those who can't protect themselves, especially kids, especially women. "We've got you, kid," Victor said, standing up. "Lucy, call 911 right now." The motel across the street was the kind of place where people minded their own business and kept their curtains closed. Peeling paint covered the walls, and the parking lot was full of cracks and potholes. Room 14 was easy to find because terrible sounds came from inside. A man's voice yelling with rage, a woman's voice crying and begging him to stop, the awful sound of fists hitting flesh. The boy, Tyler, started to run ahead, but one of the bikers gently held him back. "You stay here, buddy. Let us handle this." Victor didn't bother knocking. He raised his boot and kicked the door fully open. It slammed against the inside wall with a bang that echoed across the parking lot. Inside the small, dirty room, a woman was on the floor between the bed and the wall. Blood dripped from her nose and mouth. Her eye was already swelling shut. Standing over her was a large man, easily over 6 feet tall, and built like someone who'd spent years in a gym. His fist was raised high, ready to hit her again. "That's enough," Victor said, his voice low and dangerous. The man, Marcus Webb, spun around fast. His eyes were wild with alcohol and rage. "Get out of here! This is between me and my woman! None of your business!" "She's not your woman," Victor said calmly, as 8 bikers filled the small room behind him, blocking the only exit. Their presence made the room feel even smaller. "And you just made it our business when her kid came running for help." Marcus was big, and clearly thought his size made him tough. He sneered at the bikers. "You think you scare me? I've been in prison. I fought guys twice as tough as you." He swung a wild punch at Victor's face. Bad choice. Very bad choice. Before we continue this story, tell us where in the world you're watching from. Also, please subscribe to the channel. It will help us bring you more inspiring stories every day. Victor caught Marcus's fist in midair, twisted the arm with practiced precision, and slammed Marcus face first into the wall. One clean, efficient move. Marcus dropped to his knees, dazed and confused about what just happened. 2 bikers immediately grabbed Marcus's arms and held him down. Another biker, a man named Riggs, who used to be an army medic in Afghanistan, rushed over to check on the woman. "Ma'am, can you hear me? Where does it hurt the worst?" Riggs asked gently, his trained eyes scanning her injuries. "My ribs," she gasped, struggling to breathe. "He kicked me there. And Tyler. Where's Tyler? Where's my son?" "Right here, Mama." The boy pushed past Snake, the biker who'd been holding him back, and threw himself at his mother. He wrapped his small arms around her as carefully as he could, crying harder now. "I got help, Mama. The bikers came. You're safe now. You're safe." The woman, Rebecca Martinez, held her son tight with one arm despite the terrible pain shooting through her body. Tears streamed down her bruised face as she looked up at Victor with her one good eye. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you so much. He would have killed me this time. I know he would have." Victor nodded once, his jaw tight. "Not today. Not ever again." Within minutes, the sound of sirens filled the air. Sheriff Tom Cruise pulled up in his patrol car with an ambulance right behind him. Cruise was a good man who knew the Thunder Knights well. They did charity rides every year, helped with toy drives for kids at Christmas, and never caused any trouble in his county. "What happened here, Victor?" the sheriff asked, surveying the scene with experienced eyes. "Kid ran into Lucy's diner crying for help," Victor explained simply. "Said his mama's boyfriend was beating her. We found Marcus here doing exactly that. We stopped him. That's the whole story." The sheriff looked at Marcus, still being held by two bikers, then at Rebecca being carefully loaded onto a stretcher by paramedics. Tyler refused to let go of her hand and climbed into the ambulance with her. Cruz had responded to calls about Marcus Webb before. 3 times in the past 6 months, actually. Each time, Rebecca had been too scared to press charges. "Rebecca," the sheriff said gently, "do you want to press charges? This time?" Rebecca looked at Marcus, who was glaring at her with pure hatred burning in his bloodshot eyes. Then she looked at the wall of bikers standing between her and danger. 8 men she didn't even know who had risked themselves to save her. "Yes," she said, and her voice was stronger than it had been in months. "I want to press charges. For everything he's done." The sheriff smiled grimly. "Good. Marcus Webb, you're under arrest for assault, battery, and about 6 other charges I'll think of on the way to the station." As Marcus was hauled away in handcuffs, still struggling against the officers, he shouted back at Rebecca with venom in his voice. "I'll be out tomorrow. I'll make bail and I'll find you. You can't hide from me." "No," Victor said quietly, stepping between Marcus and the ambulance. "You won't." That evening, Victor and 2 of his brothers visited the county hospital. They found Rebecca in a room on the 3rd floor. Tyler was curled up beside her on the narrow hospital bed, both of them sleeping peacefully. Probably the first real rest either of them had gotten in months. The first sleep without fear. A nurse named Angela approached them quietly in the hallway. "You're the bikers who saved her, aren't you?" "We helped," Victor said, feeling uncomfortable with being called a hero. Angela's eyes were fierce with emotion. "She told me everything while we were treating her. That monster has been terrorizing her for 8 months straight. She tried to leave him twice before. Both times he found her and beat her even worse. She was running out of options, running out of hope." "She's got options now," Victor said firmly. "She's got hope now, too." When Rebecca finally woke up an hour later, she immediately started crying again. But not from physical pain. It was relief mixed with fear. "He'll make bail," she said, her voice shaking. "He always does. His brother owns a bail bonds company. He'll be out by tomorrow morning and he knows where I live. He knows where I work. He knows everything about me." Victor pulled up a chair and sat down beside her bed. "Not this time. And even if he somehow does get out, I promise you, he'll have to go through all of us first. And we don't plan on moving." "I don't understand," Rebecca said, confusion mixing with gratitude. "Why are you doing this for us? You don't even know who we are." Victor glanced at Tyler, still sleeping peacefully beside his mother. Your boy had real courage today. He could have frozen. He could have hidden. Instead, he ran for help. That took guts. Can't walk away from courage like that. The Thunder Knights called an emergency meeting at their clubhouse that same night. 23 members showed up within an hour. Word had spread fast about the motel rescue, and everyone wanted to know what happened next. Rebecca Martinez and her son Tyler need our protection, Victor explained to the group. Marcus will probably make bail within a few days. When he does, he'll come looking for them. She has no money saved up because she's been running from him for months. She has no family in this area. No safe place to go. The club president, a tough Vietnam veteran named Axel, leaned back in his chair and thought carefully. What exactly are you proposing? Full club protection. We find her a safe apartment, help her get back on her feet financially, and we make damn sure Marcus understands that touching her again means dealing with all of us. One member, a younger guy named Spike, objected. Look, I feel bad for her, but we're not a charity organization. We all have our own families to worry about and protect. That little boy ran to us, Victor said, his voice sharp and firm. When he was terrified and desperate, he looked at us and saw help. He trusted us when everyone else in that diner just sat there and did nothing. We answered his call. We can't betray that trust now by walking away. Axel studied Victor's face for a long moment, then looked around the room at the other members. The Thunder Knights had always had a code, a set of rules they lived by. Protect the vulnerable, especially women and kids trying to escape abuse. It's what separated them from criminal motorcycle gangs. It's what gave them respect in their community. Motion passes, Axel finally said. Victor, you're the point man on this operation. Figure out what they need and make it happen. By Monday morning, the rescue had hit every local news channel. Bikers Save Woman from Brutal Assault played on repeat. The diner's security footage showed Tyler running in desperately, showed the bikers' immediate response without hesitation, showed them emerging from the motel with Rebecca safely away from her attacker. Public perception of the Thunder Knights shifted overnight. These weren't the dangerous outlaws people sometimes imagined when they saw motorcycle clubs. They were men who'd stopped for Saturday breakfast and ended up saving lives. Lucy started a fundraiser right there at the diner. She put a jar on the counter with Tyler's crayon drawing taped to it. By the end of the week, the community had donated $15,000, enough money for first and last month's rent on an apartment, security deposits, furniture, and a financial safety net while Rebecca got back on her feet. The Thunder Knights found Rebecca a small 2-bedroom apartment in a secured building across town, far from anywhere Marcus would think to look. They installed extra deadbolts on the door, gave her emergency contact numbers for all 23 members, and made it crystal clear to everyone, if Marcus or anyone else threatened this woman or her son, 40 bikers would respond immediately. Tyler drew a picture for each biker using his crayons, images of motorcycles and stick figure heroes with big smiles. He gave Victor's drawing to him personally. It showed a tall man in black leather vest helping a small boy in a red shirt. "Thank you," was spelled out in shaky letters across the top. Victor, a tough man who'd seen combat in Iraq and 20 hard years on the road, felt his eyes sting with tears. He cleared his throat. "This is going on my refrigerator at home, kid. Right where I can see it every single day." 4 days later, exactly as Rebecca had predicted, Marcus made bail. His brother paid the bond company, and Marcus walked out of jail at 8 in the morning. But when he tried to find Rebecca, he hit walls everywhere he turned. Her old apartment was empty. Her old phone number was disconnected. Her new address was unlisted. She had a new job at a company that happened to be owned by one of the Thunder Knights members. Security systems protected her building. Systems Marcus couldn't breach. And 40 bikers had made it very clear throughout town. Approach Rebecca Martinez or Tyler again, and face consequences that go way beyond legal trouble. Marcus tried filing a harassment complaint against the Thunder Knights, claiming they threatened him illegally. Sheriff Cruz actually laughed when he read it. "You beat a woman in a motel parking lot in front of multiple witnesses, including her 8-year-old son," Cruz said flatly. "These bikers stopped you from potentially killing her. That's not harassment, Marcus. That's called civic duty. Case dismissed." Realizing he was beaten, Marcus finally left town. He was last spotted 2 states away in Nevada, finally understanding that Rebecca Martinez was completely untouchable now. Rebecca got a job as a waitress at Lucy's Diner, the exact place where her salvation had begun. Lucy was so impressed by Rebecca's resilience and work ethic that she paid her fairly and provided flexible hours so Rebecca could match Tyler's school schedule. Tyler started 2nd grade at a school near their new apartment. On his first day, the Thunder Knights escorted him, not aggressively or intimidating anyone, just 8 motorcycles forming a protective barrier that announced clearly to any potential threat, "This child is protected by people who will not hesitate to act." The other 2nd graders thought it was the coolest thing they'd ever seen. Tyler beamed with pride all day. 1 year after the rescue, Lucy's Diner held a celebration. Rebecca stood up to speak publicly for the first time since everything happened. "A year ago, my son ran into this place begging strangers for help. These bikers didn't hesitate even for a second. They gave us our lives back. They gave us hope." Tyler stepped forward, holding a painted version of his original crayon drawing. It showed 8 bikers surrounding a woman and child, protecting them from darkness, with words reading, "Sometimes heroes ride Harleys." He handed it to Victor. "For your clubhouse, so you never forget what you did for us." The crowd erupted in applause. Victor knelt down and pulled Tyler into a tight hug. "You were the real hero, kid. You had the courage to ask for help when it mattered most. Never forget that." Sometimes the bravest cry for help interrupts the quietest morning. What begins as breakfast among strangers ends as a rescue that transforms lives forever. Real heroes answer calls they never expected to receive. If this story moved you, hit that like, subscribe, and bell icon. Tell us in the comments, would you stand up for a stranger like these bikers did? Until next time, ride safe and stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves.